Chihiro is based on a real person, which is also on Wikipedia. Nihon Television is one of Ghibli's patrons, and there's an executive called Mr. Okuda. Now, Chihiro's model is his daughter. One day, Miyazaki suddenly started insisting that there's no way she would be raised properly under her parents. I mean, he really can't stay out of other families' business. He said that he needed to do something and suggested that if she came to Ghibli, she would become a more decent adult. Mr. Okuda took his daughter to Miyazaki's second home quite often. This was where the basic structure of Spirited Away was created. Just like those businessmen who approached Ghibli and Miyazaki shamelessly for money. Chihiro's parents turned into pigs for being tempted by food, and their daughter is taken to an unreasonable and horrifying workplace like Ghibli and forced to work there. Wikipedia also writes what happened. The original idea of the movie was that Miyazaki wanted to please a 10-year-old daughter of his personal friend. She was a daughter of Toshio Okada, a Nihon TV's movie producer, and became the model of the main character Chihiro. At the time, Miyazaki used to invite the daughters of Ghibli officials in his mountain hut and held a training camp once a year. He had never made a movie targeted for girls around 10-year-olds, so he became motivated to make one. In other words, the concept of the movie in Abraya is that a girl who is forced to join Ghibli for the convenience of the adults is made an animator to make anime that comfort the audience. Isn't that terrible? This is the basis. But then Miyazaki keeps on including additional interesting elements. The basic concept is like the part of Abraya made in concrete. The anime transforms from the basic concept because he keeps wondering how he can make it more interesting. A girl he likes is being exploited by Suzuki at Ghibli, but there's nothing Miyazaki can do to help. He was like, I'm just an old man, which sounds pretty gross. He said, I'm just an old man, so I can't fight Suzuki, who's as scary as Yubaba, but I can give her some advice. So he drew himself as Kamaji. He didn't forget to give himself a cool character. Actually, Chihiro gets stronger without any help, but Miyazaki had another alter ego besides Kamaji. It's Haku, that beautiful boy who's literally covered with blood in order to work for Yubaba. Just like that, Miyazaki had to work bloody hard in order to make anime under Suzuki's unreasonable command. And if Suzuki decides that Miyazaki was too old and useless, he would ruthlessly throw Miyazaki away in a hole and start favoring young animators like Miyazaki's disciples, his son Goro Miyazaki, and more than anyone else, Takahata. Miyazaki is like, Suzuki-san, so now you care more about the younger guys than me? Miyazaki's such selfish delusions overflow in the scenes where Yubaba dotes on a child called Bo, which makes the movie more and more interesting. But only Chihiro doesn't abandon Miyazaki or beautiful Haku and goes to meet Takahata at Zeniba at risk of her life. And Chihiro finally tells Miyazaki her real name, which is a metaphor for teaching him the kind of anime he should be making, and leaves. And that anime is Spirited Away. In other words, this is Miyazaki's autobiographical story, which I think is so well made. It is an animation for Miyazaki, by Miyazaki, from the beginning to the end. At some point, it was no longer an anime for 10-year-old girls. Now he was making it for himself. On Your Mark, made around this time, was similar. From around this time, Miyazaki started making stories only he could understand. But that type of story created something sinister and deep in taste. On top of that, he still had a will to make his movies a hit. In addition, he had skills, experience, great ideas, and imagination to make that happen. And this became the secret for the popularity of his movies. That's how the movie reflects his strong sense as an author. However, an anime Miyazaki would make for himself could not make a mega hit like Princess Mononoke did. It's like Miyazaki's autobiographical novel, but it lacks sociality. Unless it looks like it's criticizing society, critics won't pay close attention to the context. That's where Suzuki's misleading advertisement comes in. Suzuki knew at the early stage of production that Miyazaki started making an autobiography. Then he thought the movie wouldn't make a mega hit unless he made the movie look like Princess Mononoke, which criticized the society. That's why Suzuki intentionally misled the media by saying Abraya is an analogy for sex establishment, like those Japanese hostess bars. His strategy worked so well, and the critics, including myself, were tricked by it. That's how we never got to the idea that the movie actually depicted Studio Ghibli. It's written in this book that Abraya is Ghibli and people lose their minds working there, just like how Chihiro eventually didn't feel anything seeing her parents turning into pigs. In the actual movie, there's a scene where Chihiro sees them and feels sad. But, well, when this book was made, the movie was only halfway done. During the interview, Miyazaki said that Chihiro doesn't feel sad at all when she sees her parents as pigs because she loses her mind working in Abraya. But when she eats rice balls and remembers her name, she realizes how much she has changed, then finally shed tears. Just like that, people lose their minds as they work at Abraya. It reflects the fact that Miyazaki was too busy when his mother died, so he didn't go to her funeral. He thought that people who work at an animation studio lose their minds more and more. Miyazaki fully understands it because he has given so many unreasonable orders and yelled at his Ghibli animators himself. As for Chihiro, she's so busy that she completely forgets her name and loses her mind. And the way for her to regain her mind...
Thank you for watching until the end. I am the most famous otaku king in Japan, Otaking Toshio Okada. Thanks.